are going to jump into a new prayer tonight, and this is probably the scariest one. I'm going to be honest. You might be thinking, Jacob, what are you talking about? A prayer is going to be scary. I'm serious. This one is probably the most frightening of all the prayers. Seriously, it's probably the most frightening of all the prayers in the series. And it's one that, if I had to guess, some of you are not going to be willing to pray at the end of the message. Some of you are going to say, I genuinely don't want that. Some of you, I'm serious, are going to say, I don't want to do this, and I'm not going to ask God for this. And when I first start looking at it, I kind of feel the same way. I'm like, do I really want God to do this? Like, really? But this is it. Our prayer tonight, the dangerous prayer that we're talking about, is God, break my heart. Break my heart. That's the dangerous prayer. That we are literally going to ask God to break us. And the reason it's scary is because if you ask God to break you, chances are he's going to. Chances are that's exactly what he'll do. So it's going to take more than just a bless me and help me in a safe ideology when we go into this prayer. It's going to take some courage, right? God, break my heart. Crush it. Strip away every bit of comfort that I have, God. Break my heart. And see, here's the thing. When God does answer this prayer, you're going to be burdened. You're going to feel tons of grief. Your heart is going to ache. But at the end of the day, it's all going to be worth it. And the reason it's going to be worth it is because that you will be blessed as your heart breaks over something. Because here's the thing, when God breaks your heart, it's not just going to be over something simple that you want or something that you don't want. It's going to be broken over something that breaks his heart. See, there are lots of things that break God's heart that don't break ours yet. But if we'll ask him to break our hearts, then what he's going to do is break our hearts for the same things that break his. There are lots of stories all throughout Scripture of people who prayed for this. There's the first one that comes to mind is the prophet Jeremiah. And Jeremiah prays this, listen to this. My grief is beyond healing. My heart is broken. I hurt with the hurt of my people. I mourn and am overcome with grief. Again, my grief is beyond healing. My heart is broken. I hurt with the hurt of my people. I mourn and am overcome with grief. See, Jeremiah prayed very serious prayers, and he preached amazing sermons. Like when we read some of the sermons, they were fiery sermons. Okay, they were amazing things. But his heart was broken, but not for things that literally just broke him. His heart was broken for the people. His heart was broken for the people that he was responsible for. Not just broken because he was hurting because his people hurt. That's the difference between just our heart being broken and asking God to break our heart. That's really what we're going after here is, God, don't just break me of something that I'm going to be hurting over. God, break my heart for what breaks yours. And what breaks the heart of God is things that affect you and affect me. Things that hurt you and that hurt me. That's what breaks the heart of God. And that's what we're asking him to do. And I want to say, I'm not speaking to things, and I'm not saying that these are bad, okay? I want to preface before I say this. I'm not saying that these are bad things, that you shouldn't not like these things, okay? I'm not trying to say that, but I'm saying don't just break my heart for the homeless guy that I see and I want to give some change to, but then I move on with the rest of my day. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about maybe just an animal that you saw that you felt sorry for. Those aren't bad things. But I'm saying really break our hearts. Like really break our hearts. But see, this is contrary to everything culture says. Because culture is all about you. Right? Like do everything for yourself. Only care about yourself. Love yourself. It's all about you. That's what culture says. Don't care about other people. Only care about yourself. Because you're the only one that matters at the end of the day. Make sure that you're happy. Do what makes you happy. That's what culture says. Which is totally the opposite of everything that Jesus taught. Jesus says, no, die to yourself. He literally says, pick up your cross every day Like he doesn't want you to do things for you. Following Jesus is all about other people. See, here's a question that I want you to think about for just a second with me. What if God's greatest blessings don't come because we did great things or because we've asked him to, but what if his greatest blessings come through his greatest breakings? Like where he literally just breaks us apart. What if that's when his greatest blessings come through? See, what if God breaks your heart for what breaks his? See, comfort is a thing that we really love, right? How many of you really love to be comfortable? Okay, I love sometimes just coming home after I've been at work and laying on the couch. And listen, when I'm laying on the couch and then Haley's like, hey, can you take Nash outside? Nash is our dog, just so you know. Haley's like, hey, can you take Nash outside? And I'm like, dang it. I'm comfortable on the couch, right? I'm laying here. I've already sat down. And the reality is I've never done anything because I was so comfortable. Other than just continuing to be comfortable, right? Like comfort has never pushed me to action at any point. And I'm guessing the same is true for you. If you are comfortable, it has not driven you to do something different, right? It just drives you to be more and more and more comfortable. I love being comfortable. I love coming home in the evenings and instead of wearing jeans or whatever else I wore during the day, putting on a pair of sweatpants and just sitting on the couch. That's fun. I like that. That is comfortable to me, but it has never, ever a single time pushed me to action. Not once. See, it doesn't do that for us. And in the same way that comfort in that sense of, sweatpants and hanging out on the couch, whatever, in the same way that doesn't want me to do things, so does being comfortable in my Christian life. Just being okay with what's happening in the world. Just going by as if nothing really does matter to me. Because most of us do that, right? We just ignore the things that are happening in the world and act like everything's good. Everything's good at church. I don't need to go and serve because everything's taken care of. I just need to come in and enjoy the worship and play the game or whatever. Or we just go through life ignoring the fact that there are injustices in the world, ignoring the fact that there are people who literally live in this county who are sleeping outside on nights when it's freezing. Ignoring all of those things happening because that would make us uncomfortable. Right? We'll just neglect those things. But the thing is, as you are comfortable, you will never take action. To take action, you've got to get uncomfortable, and that's why we have got to allow God and ask God to break our hearts for what breaks his. We have to. And here's another thing I'll tell you is that pain-free days never made me any more like Jesus. Days where everything was smooth and completely fine, I have never once at the end of the day gone, you know what? I am more like Jesus because of this. Right? We don't do that. The times in my life where things were the worst or the most rough or having the worst circumstances, whatever they are, on the other side of those, that's when I genuinely can say, I feel like I'm closer to God because of that circumstance. I'm closer to God now on the other side of that. But never once has everything gone perfectly fine all day long. No one flipped me off while I was driving anywhere. No one didn't tell me thank you when I opened the door. Like that, nothing happened. It was a great day. I've never once at the end of that said, you know what, I'm more like Jesus today because I have had nothing bad happen. No, it's when there's pain. It's when there's struggle. That's whenever we grow closest to God. Break out of the self-centered lives that we all live. We've got to lose the comfort and step into these things. Moses, think about what he did. Moses was a young Hebrew boy, and what did he do? He went before the most powerful man in the world at his time, and he told him to let his people go. That was uncomfortable. God called him to go and do something because his people, God's people, were slaves, and they were being brutally beaten, and they were asked to do horrible things, and they were not taken care of. And God tells Moses to go in front of the man in the world and tell him, not request, hey, would you care to let our people go? No, but to walk into his place and say, let my people go. he asks Moses to do this, who is a young guy. He asked him to do something because his heart was broken for the people. Think about David. David, what did he do? You all know the story, David and Goliath. David is sent out to bring some food to his brothers who are out on the front in this war. You know, his dad sends him out, hey, take some stuff out to the real men who are out fighting the battle, because David's a young boy. And he gets there, and there's this big giant named Goliath, and everyone's terrified to fight him, and he's cursing God, and he's laughing at God's people, and David gets ticked. David is mad, but his heart is broken because Goliath is being allowed to say these things about God. And now David, a young guy, says, to do anything about this, then I will. And you all know the story. He grabs his sling and his stones and he takes down Goliath, this giant. This little boy does. But he did it because his heart was broken. See, we have got to get to a place where our heart is broken for the things that breaks God's heart. Because when we are, we can be moved to action. And so I'm daring you, I'm asking you, and I'm begging you, if you want to move closer, if you want your relationship to move forward, pray this prayer. You're not going to like it. It's not going to be comfortable at all. Okay? It's not going to be comfortable at all, but it is necessary for us to move forward. It is absolutely necessary for us to move forward. We have to allow God and ask God, break my heart for what breaks yours, God. God, break my heart. And listen, I just ready to ache. Get ready to be broken. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Be ready for it, because it's going to happen. If you ask God to do it, he's going to do it. I don't know what he's going to break your heart over, because there's lots of things that break the heart of God. And he's not just going to say, hey, everything that breaks my heart now breaks yours. What he's going to do is he's going to give you something. He's going to show you something, and it is literally going to break your heart to the point where it's all you think about. To the point where it is like, that's what you want to do, is you want to help in this situation. You want to help God fix this in this broken world. So for you, he might break your heart for racial injustice. He might break your heart for the fact that there are people who have no clean water in our world today. He might break your heart for people who are stuck in trafficking situations. He might break your heart for something like that. Who knows? He might break your heart for this. He might break your heart for people trapped in different kinds of addictions. I don't know what it is, but he will break your heart for something to the point where it is all you think about. To the point where that is what your life mission is about, to follow Jesus and to help with this, with the very thing that breaks the heart of God. And we need to thank God for broken hearts. Because without those broken hearts, nothing in this world would change. Think about all the amazing things that have been started that have helped so many people all over the world. Just think about some of the ministries and the missions that have gone out and helped people who were in a lot of the situations that I mentioned. Where did those come from? Did they come from people who were really comfortable and who were just coming to church and just enjoying life? No, they came from people who were broken, who couldn't stand the people stuck in these situations. God broke their hearts. And we need to ask God to do the same thing for us. Because see, it's better to hurt with a purpose than to die without one. Do you hear me? It's better to hurt with a purpose than to die without one. Paul wrote in Romans chapter 9. With Christ as my witness, I speak with utter truthfulness. My conscience and the Holy Spirit confirm it. My heart is filled with bitter sorrow and unending grief for my people, my Jewish brothers and sisters. I would be willing to be forever cursed and cut off from Christ if that would save them. Do you hear what Paul just said? He is so over his people who are hurting. He said that he would do anything, even be cut off from Christ for the sake of his people. That's how brokenhearted he is. That's Paul writing that. That's in the Bible. He literally says, I am hurting so much for my people that I would rather, that I would even go so far to be cut off from Christ, if that would save. See, that I don't know what the hurt is going to be, what it's going to come from. I don't know what God's going to break your heart for. But if you pray this prayer and you are genuinely asking God to break your heart, he will. And I'll share with you all, I have asked God to break my heart before. And that's why I'm standing in front of you all tonight. That's why I am in student ministry, is because God's broken my heart for you, for students. Because I look around and I see that there are people who have heard some version of Christianity that isn't even close to what it really is, and it breaks my heart. The fact that there are young people who grow up and who have been taught something that is not even close to the gospel, and they walk away from Jesus without even knowing who Jesus really was. That breaks my heart. That they've been raised up to believe that Jesus, that to only be good with Jesus, you've got to be good enough. That you have to follow all the rules, and then if you follow all the rules, at some point, God might start to love you. It breaks my heart that there are people who believe that. Because that's literally not even close to the truth. That is anti-gospel. That is anti-Jesus. People who are being raised up to believe things like that, and it breaks my heart. You see, another thing that God has broken my heart over is, and I've asked for different things. I've asked God to break my heart, and he's given me students. And the other thing he's given me is it breaks my heart for the way that some Christians treat people who are outside of the church. Specifically for me, the one that breaks my heart is the way that Christians for so long have treated people in the homosexual community. That they've been told over and over Jesus doesn't love them. That breaks my heart. Because again, that is anti-Jesus and it's anti-gospel. That breaks my heart. That people have been told that. That people have been told that Jesus doesn't love them because of something like that. That breaks my heart. So for me, what I think about and what I'm consumed with is a broken heart for you all. Whenever I wake up, you can ask Haley, when I wake up every day, what am I thinking about? I'm thinking about you all. Every day. Whenever I go to bed, guess what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about you all. Because God broke my heart for people like you all, for young people who don't know who Jesus is or who are growing up, figure out how to follow him and what that looks like. That's what God broke my heart for. I don't know what it is, but God will break your heart if you allow him and ask him to. And so tonight, I want to ask you, and I want to dare you and beg you to pray this prayer. If you are ready to begin a new journey with God, if you're ready to grow in your relationship with him, here's the next step. If you're here wondering that tonight, what to get closer with God? You know, I've been going to church, I've been doing this whole thing for a little while, but I'm not really all that close to God. If you're wondering what you need to do, here's your next step. God, break me. Break my heart for what breaks yours.